Farm-to-table restaurants, as they're called, became popular in San Diego over the last 5 years, but that's changing as some local businesses struggle to sustain economic viability with environmentally sound food. Here with a first-hand look at the issues are Chef Matt Gordon, owner of Urban Solace and two other restaurants, and Kat White of San Diego Weekly Markets. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Matt, you've been in the restaurant scene in San Diego for some time now. How would you describe the farm-to-table movement here?
It's definitely a challenging industry to be in, whether you're farm-to-table or not, but the cost of doing business is definitely greater for farm-to-table restaurants. So the danger zone for survival is definitely there and high.
Do you see it climbing, like in the Bay Area, staying the same, or receding a bit?
I think the awareness is still climbing every day. I think again, restaurants make it and don't make it throughout the history of the restaurant world, as Kat has said in our conversation earlier today. But I think that public awareness of where the food's coming from is increasing dramatically.
Okay. And Kat, North Park's Sea Rocket Bistro just closed. The Linkery, the El Take It Easy also went away, and the San Diego Public Market that you were hoping to bring to Barrio Logan is on hiatus right now. What are some of the barriers, do you think, from keeping sustainable food restaurants alive here?
I have to tell you, I don't think any of those operations left primarily because they were sustainable. I think there are people that get into the business of promoting local foods because they're very passionate about that. That doesn't necessarily make you good at raising funds or operating the restaurant business where nickels and dimes really count. I think you'll see some big restaurants that have closed lately that have nothing to do with the farm-to-table movement. Palms is closed, Donovan's is closed. So restaurant business is just tough. Using sustainable and local ingredients, though, is becoming such a front of mind thing that I think you're going to see big restaurant operators going more that direction.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it may not be the real factor that's kind of closing these restaurants. What would be some factors? Are we talking that the recession's kind of over, or do people in San Diego just not want to pay as much for their food? And I'm talking in general, not just sustainable restaurants. But if we've got, Matt, maybe I can ask you that question then.
Sure. I think people are willing to spend a fair amount on these types of foods these days, and I think that you see Whole Foods increasing their footprint here in San Diego with 2 new Whole Foods in the last 2 years, and the rise of the farmers markets, or how many of them are over the course of a week now. And I think people are willing to spend the money on that. It is a little more challenging in the restaurant industry. I think people who eat that way at home aren't always going to go out and support a restaurant simply because it may be farm to table or locally sourced and whatnot. They'll still go out to restaurants that don't do that. But more and more product is available to us as restaurateurs. The prices, as more people get into this, are coming down to a degree. I think what it comes down to is our profit margin is definitely lower than a standard restaurant model, so it does leave us sort of precariously perched if there's something major that comes along our way financially.
Now, you don't consider your restaurant a food-to-table restaurant per se, because I understand you don't buy everything here locally. Explain to us sort of that reasoning and what you do buy here versus what you buy elsewhere.
I'll try to make that a short answer if possible. I think the word farm-to-table is a sort of a public way of denoting something like a sustainably minded, or we're sort of forward thinking about food. There's no such thing as a farm-to-table restaurant. We all use plastic wrap and trash bags and napkins and to-go containers, salt, which we make some of ourselves actually from seawater from Scripps, but we, kosher salt we buy, our sea salt is not locally produced for the most part. Flours, oils, all kinds of things that you cannot purchase, farm to table, and delivery trucks bring these things to restaurants.
Okay, that works. Yeah, and Kat, now I just spoke with Tom Chino of Chino Farms last week, and he told me one of his biggest worry about the future in sustainable food here in San Diego is the limited supply and rising cost of water. Absolutely. Do you think that will impact both the sustainable restaurants here and also just everyone?
Oh, absolutely. It's hitting our farmers very, very hard. We've got small avocado farmers that are paying $30,000 a month for water. That's tough. That cost has to be passed on, whether they're selling it at retail at a farmer's market or whether they're trying to sell it to chefs. And chefs have to make every piece of their operation work financially in order to keep a restaurant viable. So anything that affects the cost of food makes it tougher.
I think if I could just tag on to that, for beef, for example, there's very little beef production in San Diego, beef farming in San Diego, because we're not really the right climate. type of biological zone for it. So it doesn't make sense to try to force that into happening here when we have parts of California that are perfect for that type of food being raised.
I see. Congress is still trying to work out a deal on this 5-year farm bill. So I'll start with you, Matt. What role would you like to see the government play, if any, in the sustainable food market?
4 letters, ZERO, zero. None.
Okay.
I think that the subsidies of commodity food is destroying the marketplace in the United States, and so people don't really have any idea what it takes to cost to grow and consume food.
And how about you, Kat? Do you
I
think
absolutely agree. If the government would get out of the way and quit subsidizing big ag, sugar, corn, and the processed foods that those foods create, there'd be a level playing field for real food, and people would realize that food just should be a certain percentage of your income. That should be your expenses. It's a priority expense. It's what you feed yourself and your family. Pay the farmer or pay the doctor.
Okay.
And so if the government would back off and quit subsidizing processed foods, I think we'd all be ahead of the game.
Okay. Well, Kat White and Matt Gordon, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thanks.